Okay, so you know how sometimes things just aren't what they seem, like
Mhm.
at all.
Oh, absolutely.
You think you've got a situation figured out, the story makes sense,
Uh-huh.
and then bam, something comes out of left field, a
Mhm.
tiny detail maybe,
Yeah.
or some connection nobody saw coming.
And it completely flips the script.
Totally.
Yeah.
Today, we're doing a deep dive into two cases exactly like that.
Mhm.
Cases where the truth turned out to be way, way stranger and honestly more tangled than anyone imagined.
Exactly. And that's what's so fascinating about these cases we're looking at today. It's how quickly that first story, that initial narrative can just crumble.
Right.
We'll see how investigations change course, how assumptions get challenged again and again by new information,
Yeah.
and you start to see this whole web of connections, different motivations. It completely redefines the whole picture.
Yeah, like peeling back layers.
Precisely. We're looking at how things that seem totally separate can suddenly link up in, well, really surprising ways, and how hidden truths can pop up even years down the line.
For better or worse, I guess.
For better or worse, yeah, it just forces you to keep questioning what you think you know.
Our sources for this deep dive really pull back the curtain on these two stories. They're distinct, but both are pretty gripping.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like we get a front row seat to, the real work, the digging for facts, which sounds exhausting and often frustrating.
It really is. And you feel the emotional toll, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
On everyone, the detectives, the families especially.
Totally.
We're going into the raw accounts, the investigation details, so we can kind of trace how things unfolded, how the understanding evolved almost in real time.
Yeah, you see those moments where something clicks for them.
Right, those aha moments, right alongside the investigators and the families trying to piece it all together. Okay, let's start with the disappearance of Nikki Macauen. This one begins like a straightforward missing person case, but it spirals pretty quickly.
It really does.
So set the scene for us. We're in Richmond, Indiana.
Right. It's a Sunday afternoon. Nikki Macauen, she's 28 years old, and she's just 3 weeks away from her wedding day, planning her future.
Wow, 3 weeks. So exciting time normally.
Exactly. So her plan for that Sunday was pretty normal stuff. Drive to Dayton, Ohio, that's nearby. Pick up some beauty supplies for the wedding, probably.
Makes sense.
Then back to Richmond to hit the laundromat. It's close to her place. And then the plan was to take the wet laundry to her sister's house just down the street to use the dryer there.
Okay, so just errands,
Yeah.
a typical Sunday, run-of-the-mill stuff.
Totally mundane. And that's the thing, isn't it? How something so normal can just twist into something terrifying.
Yeah. So where did things start to go wrong?
Well, the first red flags popped up pretty much right away. While she's at the laundromat, Nikki calls her family. She sounds upset.
Okay.
She tells them she's being harassed. That's the word she used by two men there.
Harassed. Okay, that's concerning.
Definitely. Her mom's worried, tells her, look, just grab your clothes, forget drying them there, bring them to your sister's house like you planned. Just get out of there, basically.
Sensible advice.
Meanwhile, her fiancé, Bobby Webster, gets home around 4:30. He'd been out running wedding errands with a friend.
Right.
He admits later he just kind of got sucked into a TV show. He figured Nikki was still out, maybe shopping, maybe spent a bit more money than they'd agreed on. Typical couple stuff.
Yeah, an assumption you might make,
Yeah.
but it wasn't right.
Not even close. That assumption turned really dark really fast. By 5:30 p.m., Nikki still hasn't shown up at her sister's with the laundry.
Uh-oh.
Bobby starts calling her phone. No answer.
Hmm.
The hours start ticking by, and that worry starts to build. Goes from, that's weird, to, okay, something's not right.
Yeah, I can imagine that knot in your stomach just tightening.
Exactly. And then comes the thing that just screams, emergency. Nikki fails to pick up her daughter, Peyton, who's 9, from her grandmother's house.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's not good.
That's really not good. Everyone says she was completely devoted to Peyton. Missing that pickup. Unthinkable for Nikki.
So totally out of character.
Completely. And then they discover something else that makes it even worse. Her purse and her ID. Left behind at the apartment she shared with Bobby.
Wait, her purse and ID.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how was she planning to pick up Peyton? Or do anything, really? It just didn't add up. It made the missed pickup feel incredibly sinister.
Okay, so the family knows something is seriously wrong.
Hmm.
What about the police at this point?
Well, this is where you often see that friction, that clash between family instinct and police procedure.
Right.
When the family tries to report her missing right away, they hit that wall, the 72-hour waiting period.
Ugh, that waiting period. I've heard about that. It's so frustrating.
It's incredibly frustrating for families in this situation. The idea is, adults can leave if they want to. It stops resources being wasted on someone who just took off.
But what if they didn't just take off? Those first hours are crucial, right?
Absolutely critical. The golden hours for evidence, for leads. That delay can be devastating in a genuine abduction or foul play scenario.
So the family's left in limbo.
Pretty much. They knew Nikki. They knew this wasn't her just deciding to disappear. She loved her job at the correctional facility.
Okay.
So when Monday morning comes and she's a no-show for her shift, that just cemented it for them. This responsible, dedicated person wouldn't just vanish.
It forces the family to become the first investigators, doesn't it? Doing their own searching, calling hospitals.
It often does. Carrying that initial burden while the clock is ticking, it's agonizing.
So you've got this young woman about to get married, loves her daughter, loves her job, and poof, gone.
Yeah.
A total blank space. It's terrifying.
It really is. And that family's immediate certainty highlights that gap between their knowledge of Nikki and, the standard operating procedure.
So once the police did officially start investigating, after the waiting period, what were their first steps? Did they look into those guys at the laundromat?
They did, yeah. Once the investigation formally kicked off, they searched the area around the laundromat, started interviewing friends, family, anyone close to Nikki, trying to build a picture.
And the harassment lead.
They definitely pursued that, talked to people, looked for witnesses. But according to the police reports, it just fizzled out. No solid leads came from it. It was a dead end.
What about other early evidence?
A really key piece, actually, was surveillance footage. Not from the laundromat itself, but a convenience store right across the street.
What?
It captured Nikki shortly before she disappeared. The last known images of her.
What did it show? Anything unusual?
That's the significant part, no. It showed her making a purchase, leaving the store, totally normal, calm, routine.
So not like she was being followed or seemed scared right then.
Exactly. It suggested she wasn't grabbed from the store or right outside it, which, as we'll see, became a really important point later on.
But even while they're looking at this stuff, wasn't the focus starting to shift towards the fiancé, Bobby?
Oh, very quickly, yeah. His behavior right after Nikki vanished raised a lot of eyebrows, to put it mildly.
How so?
Well, while Nikki's family and friends are out there, frantic, putting up flyers, organizing searches, looking understandably distraught, Bobby apparently struck them as having a curious appearance.
Curious how?
Always clean-shaven, dressed nicely. Someone described him as looking ready for if he was on camera.
Really? That seems off in that context.
It was jarring for the family, definitely. His sisters even said he seemed to be constantly doing interviews with the news, almost like he was, performing.
Wow, okay, that's strange. But maybe grief manifests differently.
Or maybe
it was something else. Because beyond just how he looked, his actions were even more alarming to people.
What kind of action?
He started making calls almost immediately.
Yeah.
Trying to cancel the wedding hall, get a refund.
Cancel it, not postpone.
Trying to cancel, yeah. And trying to return the wedding rings.
Whoa, okay.
And he even asked about getting a refund for Nikki's school tuition money.
Okay, that seems incredibly fast. Like she's only been missing a few days, right?
Right.
Exactly. Police flagged it as somewhat suspicious. It suggests a level of certainty that she wasn't coming back, a certainty nobody else felt yet.
It really does sound like he knew she wasn't coming back. You have to wonder, is this just panicked grief, or is it something calculated? Cold, even?
That's the question everyone was asking. And then there was the polygraph.
He took one.
He did, and he failed it. The results showed deception, according to the police reports.
Okay, so suspicious behavior, failed polygraph. That sounds like enough to arrest someone, doesn't it?
You'd think so, wouldn't you? But this is where that crucial line between suspicion and actual evidence comes in.
Right.
Despite all that, the weird behavior, the failed lie detector, the police only ever listed Bobby as a person of interest, not a suspect.
What's the difference, legally speaking?
A person of interest is someone police think might have information, someone they're looking at. A suspect is someone they believe committed the crime, someone they have probable cause to arrest.
And the polygraph isn't enough for probable cause.
Generally, no. Polygraphs are seen as unreliable by the courts, usually inadmissible as evidence. They're an investigative tool, helps guide questions, focus suspicion, but they don't prove guilt in a courtroom.
Did Bobby have any explanation for trying to get all that money back so quickly?
He did offer explanations, yeah. He claimed he was scrambling to get money together for a reward fund for information about Nikki.
Okay.
Said he needed fast cash, even needed money for a cell phone to stay in touch with the search parties.
A cell phone. Okay.
And he specifically denied canceling the wedding stuff. Said he just made calls to delay things because obviously the wedding couldn't happen in 3 weeks with her missing. He insisted, I never cancel nothing.
So he had answers, plausible or not.
He did, and he even said he understood why the police were looking at him. Said something like, I'm sure they had to do what they had to do. It just highlights that frustrating gap for investigators. You can have strong gut feelings, tons of suspicion, but without concrete, admissible evidence directly linking him to her disappearance. Their hands are tied.
So the investigation stalls on Bobby. Where did it go next? Was there a break?
There was a big one about 3.5 months later, but it wasn't what anyone expected.
What happened?
They found Nikki's car.
Finally. Where was it? Near the laundromat.
Nope, that's the twist. It was found in Dayton, Ohio, in the parking lot of an apartment complex.
Dayton. Okay, and what about inside? Anything useful?
Something crucial. Her laundry was still in the car, folded, in the basket.
Yes, folded. So, she finished the laundry.
Exactly. That immediately told investigators she left the laundromat voluntarily. She wasn't snatched from there like maybe they first thought because of the harassment call. She finished her chore, packed up, and drove away.
Wow. Okay, that changes the timeline completely.
Totally. And the position of the driver's seat suggested Nikki herself had driven it there. It wasn't adjusted for someone much taller or shorter.
So the focus shifts away from the laundromat and towards Dayton. And this apartment complex? Whose complex was it?
Another twist. It belonged to Stephen Johnston.
Who's Stephen Johnston?
Nikki's ex-boyfriend. And the father of her daughter, Peyton.
Whoa, okay, so the car is found at her ex's place. Suddenly, Bobby doesn't look like the only person of interest anymore?
Not at all. Stephen immediately became the new primary focus.
How did he react when the police showed up?
According to reports, he was incredibly cooperative. Ready and willing was the phrase used.
Okay.
Gave them his DNA sample, no problem. And crucially, he agreed to a polygraph test.
Did he pass?
He passed, cleanly.
Huh. So cooperative passes the polygraph.
Yeah. Based on that, police decided him living there was just a coincidence. They officially ruled him out as a suspect.
So another dead end, in a way. Even finding the car didn't lead directly to an answer.
It felt like that, yeah. Especially because the forensic testing on the car itself was a huge letdown.
No DNA, fingerprints, anything.
Nothing. No DNA, no blood, no usable fingerprints. They'd hoped the car would be a treasure trove of evidence, but it yielded absolutely zero.
Man, that must have been incredibly frustrating for the investigators.
Hugely disappointing. It's like you get this massive break finding the car, but it leads you right back to square one in terms of hard evidence.
It really shows how tough these cold cases can be. Leads that seem so promising just evaporate.
Exactly. It takes incredible persistence to keep going when you hit those kinds of walls.
So, with Stephen Johnston cleared and the car yielding no forensics, did they look at anyone else connected to that area in Dayton?
They did. They didn't give up on the location. They started looking at, widening the circle around where the car was found.
Yeah.
And they realized something else. Nikki's car wasn't just parked near Stephen Johnston's complex. It was also parked near another apartment complex nearby.
Okay. Who lived there?
Someone Nikki knew from work. A coworker from the correctional facility, a guy named Tommy Swint.
Tommy Swint?
Yeah.
Okay, a coworker. Was there anything immediately suspicious about him?
Well, as they started digging into him, things got unsettling fast.
How so?
Friends and family started telling investigators that Swint had somewhat of an obsession with Nikki.
An obsession? Like romantic or just creepy?
Leaning heavily towards creepy. And then this detail came out that just sends chills down your spine.
What was it?
Before Nikki went missing, Tommy Swint sent lingerie to her bridal shower.
You what? Sent lingerie to her bridal shower?
Yep. And get this. He wasn't invited to the shower. He wasn't even particularly close friends with her. He just sent it.
Okay, that is beyond creepy. That's a massive red flag right there.
Yeah.
From a coworker. Wow.
Yeah, her friends and family were totally freaked out by it at the time, saw it as deeply inappropriate and frankly disturbing.
I bet. Did police find out anything else about him? His background?
They did, and it wasn't good. Multiple people came forward saying Tommy was known to be very violent towards women. Like, it was a pattern, a common denominator in how he behaved.
Violent towards women, obsessed with Nikki, sends unsolicited lingerie. This guy's sounding like a prime suspect. How did he react when police questioned him?
Not well. He was not completely cooperative. That's how the police described it.
Meaning defensive, evasive.
Both. He apparently wouldn't answer questions completely. He'd go off subject. Just gave the impression he was dodging, hedging his answers, trying to avoid direct scrutiny.
So clearly acting suspiciously. But still no hard evidence linking him directly.
Still nothing concrete, no physical evidence tying him to the car or the disappearance itself. So despite the mountain of suspicion, the obsession, the violence, the creepy gift, the evasiveness, he remained officially just a person of interest.
Man, that limbo must have been torture for Nikki's family and for the investigators. You feel like you know who it is, but you can't prove it.
Exactly. It's an incredibly frustrating position to be in. And so the leads dried up again. The case went cold.
For how long?
For 6 years.
6 years. Oh, my God. That's an eternity for a family waiting for answers.
Yeah.
Just silence.
A killing waiting period, as someone described it. Just devastating uncertainty day after day.
And did something finally break the silence after 6 years?
Something broke, all right. And it was completely out of the blue, totally unexpected. Shocking, really.
What?
A tip came in. It revealed that Tommy Swint, the obsessive, violent coworker, the person of interest, was now working as a police officer.
You're kidding me. A police officer? Where?
In Trotwood, Ohio, the town right next door to Richmond.
The guy they suspected in Nikki's disappearance became a cop. How on earth did that happen? Did he not disclose he was a person of interest?
That was the immediate question. Richmond investigators went straight to the Trotwood police chief, asked him directly, did Swint mention being a POI in a missing person case during his hiring?
Yeah.
The answer was no, he hadn't disclosed it.
Unbelievable, the audacity. What happened then?
Well, it raised huge questions about Trotwood's vetting process, obviously, and about Swint's ethics. Trotwood PD gave him an ultimatum, resign or be fired.
Did he resign?
He resigned, but then, get this, he turned around and sued the city of Richmond and its police department.
Sued them? For what?
For wrongful termination. He claimed they ruined his career by telling Trotwood he was a POI, and he alleged he was never actually told he was a POI back when Nikki disappeared.
Wow. That takes some nerve. Did the lawsuit go anywhere?
It was eventually dismissed by a judge. But the damage, or perhaps the unintended consequence, was done.
How so?
The lawsuit generated massive media attention. Big headlines, they said. Suddenly, Tommy Swint's face was everywhere, on every newscast and front page in that whole area.
Okay, so his own legal battle put him right back in the spotlight.
Yeah.
That feels like karma, almost.
It certainly had a massive, unforeseen impact because someone saw those news reports and called the Dayton Police Department with an anonymous tip.
About Swint. What did they say?
The tipster said, basically, you guys should look into this guy Tommy Swint for Tina Ivory.
Tina Ivory? Who is Tina Ivory?
Tina Ivory was a 33-year-old woman from Dayton, Ohio. She disappeared back in 1991.
1991, so years before Nikki went missing.
16 years earlier, yeah. Her body was eventually found, dumped off the side of a road, thrown like trash in a trash pile.
Oh, that's horrific. How did she die?
The autopsy showed strangulation and blunt force trauma, a violent homicide.
And was her case solved back then?
No. It went cold. They found DNA evidence at the scene, blood and semen stains on the blanket used to cover her body. They had a suspect DNA profile.
But no suspect to match it to.
Exactly. For 16 long years, Tina Ivory's murder remained unsolved because they couldn't link that DNA to anyone. Until this anonymous tip, sparked by Swint's own lawsuit, connected him to her case.
So Swint's lawsuit didn't just bring him unwanted attention regarding Nikki, it potentially blew open a 16-year-old murder case. That's an incredible twist.
Absolutely stunning. Dayton police finally had a name, a potential suspect for Tina Ivory. Now they just needed his DNA to see if it matched the cold case evidence.
How did they get it? Could they compel him now?
Well, they couldn't force him to give DNA specifically for the Ivory case without probable cause for that murder. But here's the unbelievable irony.
What?
Tommy Swint had already voluntarily given his DNA years earlier.
He had? When?
To the Richmond police back during their initial investigation into Nikki's disappearance.
No way.
Yes way. Richmond PD still had that sample, and they shared it with Dayton PD.
And Swint had no idea they were now looking at him for a 1991 homicide.
Completely unaware. He'd given that sample thinking he was clearing his name for Nikki, even told Richmond officers he had nothing to hide. The ultimate self-own, really.
Wow. Okay, so they have his DNA from the Richmond file, they have the DNA from the Tina Ivory crime scene,
Yeah.
Did it match?
It was a perfect match.
Oh, my God.
The DNA from the blanket used to cover Tina Ivory's body and DNA from 2 semen spots found on her jacket. It all matched Tommy Swint. After 16 years, they had him.
Incredible. Just undeniable biological evidence.
And it didn't stop there. Technology had advanced since 1991. Forensic teams went back over the evidence from Tina's case. They managed to lift a fingerprint from the adhesive tape used to bind her body.
And guess. It also matched Tommy Swint's.
Wow. DNA and a fingerprint. Case closed, basically. Pretty much irrefutable. It was this incredible convergence, old evidence, new technology, and this completely unexpected tip linking the cases. Finally, justice for Tina Ivory seemed possible.
So they had everything they needed. How did they arrest him? Where was he now?
By this time, Swint had moved again. Police tracked him down to Alabama, where he was working, get this, as a security guard.
The security guard. After being forced out of the police. Okay.
Yeah. So Alabama authorities, working with Dayton PD, performed a traffic stop while he was actually in his security uniform.
Must have been quite a scene.
They took him to the station, ostensibly just to get his fingerprints for their records related to the stop. He was apparently very cooperative, just said, okay, didn't seem suspicious.
He still didn't know what this was really about.
It seems not. But then investigators confronted him directly. They had it recorded.
What did they say? How did he react?
An investigator asked him, what if they told you we had your DNA off her? Referring to Tina Ivory.
And Swint.
His response was chillingly calm. He just said, no, I wouldn't believe it. No shock, no outrage.
Just denial.
Flat denial. Then the investigator stated plainly, you killed her.
And Swint's reply.
He didn't confess. He didn't deny it outright either. He just deflected, asking questions back. Are you stating that I killed her? I'm asking you, did you kill her? And then he just shut down the interview, ended it right there.
Wow. That lack of emotion, the calmness in the face of that accusation, that's deeply disturbing.
It really is. It suggests a profound detachment, doesn't it? Almost passive. It's quite chilling to witness.
So Dayton PD had the evidence, they had the confession, or lack thereof. They moved to get an arrest warrant for Tina Ivory's murder. Yep. What happened next? Did they bring him back to Ohio?
They got the warrant. But as Alabama authorities were approaching Swint's house to make the arrest, they heard a single gunshot from inside.
Oh, no.
Tommy Swint had killed himself, took his own life before they could take him into custody.
Wow. So an answer for Tina Ivory's family in a way, but not the justice of a trial.
Exactly. And for Nikki Macaun's case, it was another devastating blow.
Because now they could never question him about Nikki.
Precisely. For Richmond police, it was completely frustrating. Any secrets Swint had about Nikki's disappearance, he took them to his grave. The chance for answers, for closure for her family, died with him.
I can't even imagine how Nikki's family felt. Relief for Tina's family, maybe, but...
They described it as a total double sword. They were glad Tina's family finally knew who killed her after all those years. But for them, it meant the prime suspect in Nikki's case was gone. The questions likely unanswered forever.
Just agony. It really shows how these crimes ripple outwards, doesn't it? One man's actions devastating multiple families across decades.
Absolutely. And police strongly suspect Swint didn't stop with Tina and potentially Nikki. They believe he likely took many secrets to his grave, and there's a good possibility he harmed other people.
A serial killer, operating right under their noses, even becoming a cop for a while. Terrifying.
Truly terrifying. But there might still be a small sliver of hope for answers in Nikki's case.
Really? How?
Police believe there's another person of interest still out there. Someone who might know what Swint did. A woman. Another co-worker of Swint's from the correctional facility. Someone he apparently had a love interest or relationship with around the time Nikki disappeared.
And they think Swint might have told her something.
They suspect pillow talk. That maybe in a moment of confidence or bragging, he revealed what happened to Nikki. They believe this woman probably does know more.
Is she cooperating? Have they talked to her?
The report just said she is on the list to be spoken to. So it's an active, though perhaps fragile, lead they're pursuing, a potential key to finally unlocking the truth.
Let's hope so. Because the pain for Nikki's family is clearly still so raw.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
17 years now since she vanished. Bobby Webster, the fiancé, he's still single. Describes himself as lonely as it gets.
Still grieving after all this time.
Yeah, he talks about wanting Peyton to have had a mother, wanting a wife for himself. He's still angry, asking God why there are no answers. He even blames himself, wondering if he'd treated Nikki better, maybe she'd still be here. Just immense ongoing pain.
And Peyton, Nikki's daughter, she was so young.
Peyton's 26 now. She has a child of her own. Can you imagine growing up with that unanswered question hanging over your life.
It's heartbreaking. How does she cope?
She holds on to hope, believes the answers will come eventually when the time's right, just carrying that heavy burden.
And Nikki's sisters.
Yeah.
They had a message for that coworker, didn't they? The one police think knows something.
They did, a very direct plea. One sister said something like, "I know Swint told you something. Clear your conscience. You're supposed to be a Christian now. Go ahead and get right with God. Get right with us."
Wow. Just a raw, desperate appeal for truth.
Absolutely. And the police are echoing that. They're still asking for the public's help, emphasizing that even the smallest anonymous tip could be the difference needed to help police discover the whole story.
If anyone listening has any information, even something they think is insignificant, about Nikki Macauen's disappearance,
Please call the Richmond, Indiana Police Department. The number is 1-765-983-7247.
or you can submit tips anonymously online at crimewatchdaily.com. Maybe that one piece of hidden truth is still out there.
Okay, from that incredibly tangled cold case full of twists and ultimately tragedy, we need to shift gears.
Right.
We're moving to a different kind of darkness now. A case where a seemingly quiet suburban neighborhood in Florida basically erupted into a war zone.
Yeah, this next one is intense.
And it forces us to look at that blurry line between self-defense and, well, cold-blooded murder. Especially when you factor in things like military training and laws like stand your ground.
This is the story of Billy Woodward, often called the Camo Killer.
Takes us to Titusville, Florida. What happened here?
It's shocking right from the start because there's surveillance video, and it's chilling.
What does it show? It shows Billy Woodward, an Army veteran, dressed head to toe in camouflage gear. He's literally crawling across the grass like he's on patrol in enemy territory.
Crawling. In his neighborhood.
Yeah, sneaking up on his neighbors, Gary Hembry and Roger Peacher. And then he just opens fire, unleashes 31 shots.
31. My God.
One neighbor, Tim Blake, was horribly injured but survived. Gary Hembry and Roger Peacher were killed, just ambushed in their own neighborhood.
And what was the setting for this? Just a random Tuesday?
That's what makes it even more surreal. It was a holiday cookout. Gary and his girlfriend Kim were hosting. The whole neighborhood was apparently there, or at least many neighbors were around.
So a party atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
Laughter, barbecue.
Yeah.
And then this happens.
Exactly. Friends, neighbors enjoying themselves. And then this calculated military-style attack shatters everything. It's that stark contrast that hits you first. How does this happen here?
What led up to it? Was there bad blood between Woodward and these neighbors?
Oh, definitely. Things had been escalating for weeks. There was a major falling out between Woodward and Gary Hembry.
About what?
It started, apparently, with something really petty, Woodward flipping Hembry the bird. Just a gesture, but it ignited a war of words.
Clay?
Then Hembry retaliated by reporting Woodward to the authorities for raising chickens in his yard, which was apparently against local code.
Chickens. So neighbor disputes.
Mm-hmm.
Annoying, sure, but doesn't usually end in gunfire.
Right. But for Woodward, it seemed to go much deeper. He claimed he has PTSD from his Army service, and he told police that he and his parents felt they'd been utterly tormented for the last month by Hembry and his circle.
Tormented how? What did he claim they were doing?
He alleged serious threats. Threats to burn down their home, threats to rape their daughter, threats to hire people to attack them.
Oh, rape their daughter. That's extreme.
Extremely serious allegations. Woodward went so far as to call it domestic terrorism. He painted a picture of living in constant fear, under siege from these neighbors.
Okay, so that's his side.
Yeah.
He felt profoundly threatened, terrorized even.
Yeah.
What did the victim's family say about all this? Did they acknowledge any conflict?
They acknowledge some friction, yeah, but their version is drastically different. Gary Hembry's mother gave a harrowing account of the shooting itself.
What did she say she saw?
She described Woodward shooting Gary first, then going over to Roger Peacher, using his foot to flip Roger's body over, kneeling down and shooting him again, point blank.
Oh my God.
She said Gary, even though he was dying, yelled for the kids who were nearby to run to get away.
Trying to protect them.
Even in his last moments. Then, she said, Woodward ran back to Gary, stood over him, and just emptied his gun on Gary.
Emptied it. How many times was he shot?
The autopsy showed 17 bullets entered Gary's body, causing 29 exit wounds, just an insane amount of firepower at close range. His mother used the horrifying phrase that his head was essentially blown off.
That's incredibly brutal. Did the family deny making threats?
They admitted maybe cracking jokes at Woodward's expense, possibly some taunting or neighborly squabbling, but they vehemently denied making serious threats like wanting to burn his house down or harm his daughter. They insisted they did nothing to warrant that kind of military-style attack.
So two completely opposing narratives. Woodward claiming self-defense against terrifying threats, the victim's family is saying it was a brutal overreaction to minor disputes.
Exactly. This is where that idea of perspective, of subjective truth versus objective reality, becomes absolutely central. Who do you believe? What actually happened in those weeks leading up?
Woodward was arrested right there, still in his camo.
Arrested without incident, yeah. He was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder for Hembry and Peacher, and 1 count of first-degree attempted murder for Tim Blake, the survivor.
And his plea.
He pleaded not guilty. And immediately, his defense went for a specific legal strategy.
Which was?
They demanded a special pretrial hearing under Florida's Stand Your Ground law.
Okay, explain. Stand your ground. How does that work?
Basically, in Florida, if you are in a place you have a right to be, and you reasonably believe you're facing an imminent threat of death or serious bodily harm, you have the right to use deadly force to defend yourself. Crucially, you have no duty to retreat first.
So you don't have to try and run away if you feel threatened. You can meet force with force.
That's the core idea. Woodward wanted a judge to rule, before even going to trial, that he was acting in self-defense under this law and should therefore be immune from prosecution altogether.
Immune. So the charges would just be dropped.
That was the goal. If the judge agreed his actions met the stand your ground criteria, the case wouldn't even make it to a jury.
What did Woodward say at that hearing? How did he justify the ambush?
His testimony was pretty remarkable. He claimed he only acted after he overheard the neighbors plotting to kill him and his family that night. He quoted them as saying things like, "Let's get together and do this. Grab your weapons. Let's go."
So he's saying he heard an immediate plan to attack him.
That was his claim. And he explicitly framed his response through his military background.
How so?
He said things like, "War had been declared upon my house and family and myself." He basically argued he was operating under rules of engagement.
Rules of engagement.
In his backyard, he asked the court, rhetorically, "Does a single soldier leave a viable enemy behind him? You cannot, sir, because that enemy will get up and shoot you in the back." He insisted his military training has never left me.
Wow. He's literally saying, I reverted to my training. I neutralized a threat as a soldier would.
Precisely. He portrayed himself as the last line of defense, the only living link between my wife and children in imminent death. It's a really stark example of how combat experience and trauma could potentially warp someone's perception of a civilian situation.
It raises huge questions, doesn't it? Can you apply military tactics and mindset to a neighborhood dispute, even if you genuinely feel threatened?
That was the core question the judge had to grapple with. Does a perceived threat, filtered through that military lens, justify ambushing people who are unaware of your presence and not actively attacking you at that moment?
So what did the judge decide? Did Woodward get immunity?
No, he didn't. The judge denied the stand your ground immunity claim in a pretty thorough 15-page ruling.
What was the judge's reasoning?
The judge essentially said Woodward wasn't reacting to an imminent threat at that moment. The ruling stated Woodward, quote, decided to preemptively strike at his victims at a moment when it was entirely unnecessary to do so and when they were entirely unaware of his presence.
So the judge focused on the fact that Woodward initiated the confrontation. He went to them.
Exactly. And that they weren't actively attacking him or on his property when he ambushed them. The judge basically ruled it wasn't self-defense in that instant. It was a preemptive attack.
That ruling is crucial then. It means the prosecution can go ahead with the murder charges.
Correct. It paved the way for a full jury trial. It underscored that stand your ground isn't a blank check for violence based on past threats or future fears. The threat generally needs to be immediate and active.
So the case goes to trial. What was the defense strategy there? Same arguments?
Pretty much, yeah. They doubled down on portraying the victims, especially Gary Hembry, as domestic terrorists. They tried to paint a picture of constant harassment and fear, arguing Woodward snapped under the pressure of an imminent threat.
Did they have any new evidence or witnesses to support that at trial?
They had a surprise witness, actually. Tim Blake, the neighbor who survived the shooting.
The survivor. What did he testify?
He admitted on the stand that he had heard Gary Hembry and his girlfriend make verbal threats against Woodward and his daughter in the past.
What kind of threats?
Including that horrifying suggestion about having Woodward's daughter raped.
Wow. The survivor himself confirming some of the threats Woodward claimed? That must have been powerful for the defense.
It definitely was. It lent some credibility to Woodward's claims of being genuinely afraid and provoked over a sustained period. It aimed to make the jury sympathize with his mindset, even if they didn't condone the shooting itself.
So how did the prosecution counter that? They still had the ambush, the 31 shots.
They hammered home the brutality and the preemptive nature of the attack. They had Roger Peacher's son, Justin, testify.
What was his testimony?
Justin described nearly being shot himself. He said Woodward pointed the gun at him and he pleaded, "Don't shoot me, I didn't do anything." It painted a picture of Woodward as dangerously out of control, not just defending himself.
Highlighting the indiscriminate nature of the violence.
Exactly. And crucially, the prosecutors kept emphasizing the location. They argued the victims weren't anywhere near his dwelling, his vehicle, or residence. They were over across the way.
Reinforcing the judge's point from the immunity hearing, he went looking for trouble.
Precisely. Undermining the core self-defense argument by showing Woodward actively sought out the confrontation armed and in camo when the victims posed no immediate physical threat in that specific location and moment.
So the jury heard all of this, the history of threats, the claims of terrorism, the horrific violence, the stand-your-ground arguments. What was the verdict?
After 3 weeks of testimony, the jury came back with their decision.
Guilty or not guilty?
Guilty, on all counts. 2 counts of murder, 1 count of attempted murder.
Wow. So they rejected the self-defense claim entirely.
They did. Although, interestingly, the judge later reduced the 2 murder convictions from first degree to second degree.
Why the reduction? Does that change the sentence much?
The specific reasoning wasn't detailed in our source, but second-degree murder often implies intent to kill, but without the premeditation element required for first degree. However, even second-degree murder carries a heavy sentence. Each count still had a minimum sentence of 25 years in Florida.
So even with the reduction, he's facing significant time.
Oh, yeah. The reports concluded he would likely spend the rest of his life in prison. The jury's verdict really spoke volumes despite the defense's efforts. The sheer violence and calculated nature of the ambush seemed to outweigh the claims of prior provocation in their eyes.
A stark end to a truly horrifying neighborhood conflict. Was Woodward okay with this verdict?
Not surprisingly, no. He was reportedly unsatisfied and immediately filed notice that he would appeal the conviction.
So the legal battles continue.
It looks that way. He still faces formal sentencing later this year, but the appeal process means the case isn't truly closed yet.
Leaving the families still in a state of limbo, even after the guilty verdict.
Exactly. It highlights how even when a trial concludes, the fight for finality and closure can drag on for years in these high-profile, complex cases.
So if we take a step back and look at both Nikki Macauen's story and Billy Woodward's, what's the common thread here? What do these deep dives tell us?
I think they powerfully remind us just how fragile our assumptions can be, right? How quickly certainty can evaporate when those hidden truths or unexpected twists emerge.
Yeah, definitely.
In Nikki's case, you have this tragic disappearance, initial suspicion on the fiancé, then the ex, then this coworker. And the real break comes years later, totally indirectly, from a different cold case ignited by the suspect's own actions. It shows how interconnected things can be in ways you'd never predict.
And the Swint suicide closing one door while leaving Nikki's agonizingly open.
Right. And in the Woodward case, you have this collision of narratives. Is it self-defense fueled by terror and PTSD? Or is it a calculated, brutal murder stemming from petty disputes? The legal system had to grapple with subjective fear versus objective actions.
The stand-your-ground defense forced everyone to really examine what constitutes an imminent threat, especially when military mindset is involved.
Exactly. Both cases just hammer home how complex reality can be, how initial appearances are almost never the full story, and how uncovering the truth is often a long, winding, and sometimes incomplete process.
So for us, for anyone listening,
Yeah.
what's the takeaway? How do we navigate this stuff?
I feel like it's about cultivating that critical thinking, you know? Recognizing that first impressions, first reports, headlines, they're often just the surface.
Don't take things at face value.
Pretty much.
Well.
Behind every story, there's usually this whole maze of other stories, hidden connections, different perspectives. It really pushes you to look deeper, to question, to understand that the path to figuring things out is rarely simple or straight.
And sometimes the most crucial information comes from unexpected places, or just from people refusing to give up the search for answers, like Nikki's family.
Absolutely. Persistence matters. Paying attention to details matters.
It raises a big question, doesn't it? In this world just flooded with information, with narratives constantly competing for our attention,
Yeah.
How do we even begin to tell the difference between a compelling story someone wants us to believe, maybe because of their own biases or agenda, and the actual verifiable truth, especially when emotions run high, like in these cases?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's a constant challenge, requires skepticism, seeking multiple sources, really interrogating the why behind the what.
And maybe it also makes you think, what responsibility do we have just as people? If we hear something, see something, know something that feels like a piece of a bigger puzzle, a hidden truth,
Hmm.
what if sharing that small piece of information could actually change everything for someone? Could bring answers, solve a long-standing mystery, finally give a family some peace?
It's a powerful thought. These stories show that sometimes one voice, one tip, one connection made can unlock secrets that have been buried for years. The search for truth often depends on those small, seemingly insignificant moments.